We also have our local sponsors who are catching the event. On the one hand, Grande Pico, thanks for videotaping everything and also putting it up on the platform where you can always check out the videos if you missed the talk or if you want to recheck on it, re-listen to it. And also Elisabeth Kindler, who's taking the pictures and capturing beautiful moments. I also want to make a shout out to Nadine, our host. She's in Hong Kong. Actually, she's kind of part-time living there and also living here organizing this. So big thanks to her as well. And we would be nothing without our global sponsors who just keep us growing all the time and especially support the headquarters in New York. And before we go on being fantastic, I just want to give you a teaser for next month. In December, we're going to have Basti Kampmann as speaker. He's the frontman from Casala. For everyone who knows Carnival, probably knows him. And it's going to be on 16th of December, so not the last Friday, because probably everyone wants to have a cozy Christmas, New Year's Eve time, so we moved it forward to the 16th of December in 2 weeks already. It's going to be in Haus Unkelbach in Sülz. And we provided a golden ticket for our already Creative Morning members. So until 30th of November, you can already register for that talk to make sure you really get a ticket. Because we're not sure how the attending rates will grow. Yeah, and now I just want to introduce Eva. She's having her online shop, All That I Want. She's also located here at Solution Space, and she's going to give you some inspiring thoughts about fantasy.
Yes. So thank you for joining me this morning for my talk about fantasy, imagination, and allowing yourself to be more fantastic. And I think it's already pretty fantastic that you guys got up so early, so yeah, thank you. I'm Eva, and I am the co-founder of allthatIwant.com, and we are an e-commerce platform for fashion and cycling culture. And everything at All That I Want is about looking good on a bicycle. And if you think that's silly, then you haven't cycled in a dress before. And the name All That I Want might not immediately relate to fashion or bicycles, but when we first started the company 4 years ago in New York City, where I was living and working at the time, me and my co-founder Mila, we have thought about that name quite a lot because we thought maybe in 10 years from now we will do something completely different. We might end up designing space shuttles, or we're going to start a band or start a record label. And then we already have the name and we don't have to worry about finding a new name. You think I'm joking, but I'm still trying to become a rapper one day. But the name just perfectly reflects our company, but also personal beliefs that we can be or do anything we want, at least in our imagination. And just as an example, when we created one of our first products, we sat together in a room with the team and we brainstormed in front of a whiteboard. I know, very inspiring, but we put up all those ideas about that perfect product we had in our mind. And it was this bicycle accessory or product that makes you bike faster, that makes you more visible at night, that protects you from rain, protects you from traffic, keeps you cold during the summer, warm during the winter. Like a product that literally gives you superpowers on a bicycle. And then we ended up creating this. It doesn't make your bike faster, and it also doesn't give you superpowers on your bicycle, but it solves a very common problem. And those of you who have cycled in a dress before probably know that problem. It keeps your dress from flipping up, and it keeps a long dress from getting tangled in the spokes, or like your coat from getting tangled, which is actually quite dangerous. But this is actually like how the creative or the design process looks at all that I want. And I truly believe that's how it should look like, that you aim high and you have this like product you want to create in your imagination. And then only in the next step, break it down and see what's realistically achievable. Because like, I mean, of course, like in the real world, there are budget restrictions or like limitations or lack of knowledge or resources. And what I want to say is that, like, I mean, it's quite difficult when you put yourself in this box already, like when you put those budget limits on your team, for example. Like, what happens when those limits or budget limits are there already from the beginning? It will make your most creative team members, it makes them quiet maybe, or in the end of the day, like worst case scenario, they become quiet and then you become a follower and not your leader in your industry, because it will definitely limit the creative output. And unfortunately, most of us, they unlearn at one point in their life to think without limits and without budget limits or without limits of knowledge. And it seems like we're putting ourselves in a box, and inside of this box, we don't allow ourselves to fantasize, to imagine, or to think outside of this box. And why is this? I don't really know, because I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of research on that topic already, but when I look at it, it starts quite promising. Like when we're little, or like children have this amazing ability to allow their fantasy and imagination run free all the time. And your parents encourage that way of thinking to a certain, or they encourage it until a certain point, I feel like. Like when you hear a child say, I want to become an astronaut, or I want to become a scientist or a magician, like, no, you can't, said no parent ever. And like I said, it's only up until a certain point, because when you maintain that ability to imagine and to fantasize, you might end up being the weird kid in 7th grade that still believes it will become a superhero one day. And then another 2 decades or 3 decades down the road, you might be that crazy woman, which I think is best case scenario, that is convinced that she will change the world with her ideas or projects or products. And like I said, this box that society, or maybe ourselves, that we put on ourselves, those limits, they are a very powerful barrier to innovative and creative thinking. And when I talked about the topic of fantasy with one of my friends, she sent me a quote out of a book, and it's about a guy who goes into a pet shop and he wants to buy a pet fish for his nephew, and he's worried that the pet fish will grow out of the aquarium or will expand its size. And then the pet shop owner goes like, oh, don't worry, fish will only grow in proportion to the size of the environment they're in. And that's a great analogy to how humans seem to adapt to the mindset or the environment they're surrounded with. And how to find a solution for this, or how to get rid of those limits. I don't know, but maybe just jump in the ocean and allow your imagination and yourself to grow. As an example, when I was a teenager, I was a very average teenager. I wasn't super popular, but I also wasn't unpopular. I wasn't necessarily a good student. Like, I was average on every level. And yeah, I was a really average teenager. And towards the end of high school, it seemed everyone already had a plan that what they want to do after graduation, and I didn't. And I also wasn't really interested in any of the subjects, but I had a great passion for film. So I thought, okay, maybe I want to become a filmmaker. And as soon as I expressed that to my friends, like I grew up in a very small town, they were like, no, you can't. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'm not cool enough. So I immediately put this box on myself, maybe to protect myself. Like I don't blame anyone because it's like your own decision, right? And but I was like, yeah, no, I should rethink that thought. But then 2 years later, I moved to LA, and I was working in film. And I was working for a production company, and it really sucked. Like, it was a really terrible job. I was basically driving around actors in a golf cart. No, actually, it was pretty cool, thinking about it. But immediately, I was surrounded by this mindset of people that allowed themselves to fantasize about their dream and what they want to achieve in life, and then they took action on it. And maybe only 1% of them will, what you call, make it in film. But at least, like I said, they have this vision, and then in the next step, they take action on it. So even though I might be one of the 99% that didn't make it in film, I think it's okay to allow yourself to fantasize about being a superstar and then take action on becoming a better version of your creative self. And so it's actually really simple, like just allow yourself to be more fantastic. And then I think you'll become more comfortable about your work, and then ultimately you will also create better output, I think. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be self-reflective and critical about yourself in a constructive way, but I just think it's a good reminder, or like it's good to remind yourself to be a little bit more fantastic. And yeah, I think it's really just that simple, but always under the premises that you don't take yourself too serious. That's it.
Thanks for your impressions. So feel free to ask some questions, whatever keeps the fantastic thoughts growing.
Yeah.
I saw you wearing 2 different shoes before the talk.
Yep. That wasn't on purpose. I had a little accident this morning and stepped into a puddle at a construction site. And I thought I have an extra pair left in the office, but for some reason I only had 1 shoe left in the office. So it wasn't on purpose, but
The other one got lost in the creative process.
In the creative process, yep.
Who else?
But thank you for noticing.
I just wanted to say that I totally agree with you with your statements, and what I think is also pretty important for people to realize is that you don't want to regret later on what you maybe missed or what you didn't do or stuff like that. So I think lots of people regret later on in the years what they didn't do and could have maybe done, even if it doesn't work. Like you said, you have to be self-reflective, you have to be self-aware of what your strengths are and things like that. But I think to regret something, you can also be a pretty
Destructive,
probably,
thing, yeah. And
exactly.
Yeah, it's like it's like the fuck up culture is gonna have a boom. So my question would be like, how do you, like, what was the biggest mistake you did and what still gave you a good outcome of it? To give an example.
maybe like I said, I when I was younger, I wanted to work in film, and I didn't make it into film school, and I didn't try again, and I kind of regret that a little bit, but then on the other hand, it wouldn't have led me to what I'm doing today, which I really love. So, yeah, I kind of regret it, but then also I don't. So it's a healthy mix.
It was a healthy fuck up.
Yeah, healthy fuck up. Yeah.
You told us that when you finished school, you were some kind of also in the box, or feeling like you were like average, like the others. And then you went to LA. And do you think this was the point where you started to be creative, or was it later? How did you come to that?
I think I've always been creative, but I didn't have a way to express it. And then through like a detour, I came to LA and then had the chance to work in film. But then when I was surrounded by those people that had a similar mindset, I felt it's easier, or I learned to express my creativity and yeah, just believe more in what I can do, or maybe not, or can't do. Yeah, I think it was really for me the way. Well, it was really the people I was surrounded with, all of a sudden. If that answers the question.
In your interview before the talk, you said it is a difference between Germany and America. Do you think that America has a more fluid supporting culture?
I think just from my perspective, I think people in general are more, they feel more comfortable about themselves and they're more proud of what they do. Whereas in Germany, it's not that people are less creative, or, I mean, they have also great ideas and produce great art or whatever, but people are just not very confident about what they do sometimes. So I think it's good to remind people that, you know, they should be more proud of what they do and be more open about their ideas, I think.
I think sometimes it's really hard to think or feel fantastic. What exactly do you do when you get the feeling that you're not fantastic?
I mean, I have that quite a lot. Like a lot of times I don't feel fantastic. But like I said, it's maybe it's because I don't take myself so serious in a lot of ways, and then I just try to get over it. And then when you are more open about what you do and you tell people like, hey, I'm actually really great, even though you don't believe it in that moment, all of a sudden people approach you differently, I think, and people are more open towards you. Yeah.
So the way of thinking, like telling yourself, okay, come on, you're great and you're fantastic. Or...
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, I don't have a solution for that, but I think it's just good to remind yourself sometimes that you also like produce great work, or what you do is great. Yeah, but I don't have like a recipe for this, I think. But it's a great question.
Anyone else? No, I think everyone's too shy this morning. Yeah, so I just want to thank you again. Thanks Eva, thanks to everyone for coming, and I hope we'll see you next time at 16th of December. Thank you.